Today's episode of DRL is brought to you by Hella Cocktail Company. My guests don't just come to DRL for me. They also come for the cocktails. Luckily, my friends at Hella Cocktail Company have my back. These guys make amazing mixes, from Bloody Mary to Margarita to Moscow Mule. They also make cocktail bitters, my secret ingredient, and now yours too. It's easy to feel like the best bartender in town when every bottle comes with a simple recipe on it. Hella Cocktail Company, bold flavor, real ingredients, hospitality. Mixing it up since 2011. Shop the collection on Amazon Prime or use code DRL online at hellacocktail.co for free shipping. Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tennesha Wood. Today's a super special episode because it's episode 100 of DRL Podcast.
Wow, congratulations. Shout out to you.
Thank you. So I brought the bae, the boo, my love thing. Did I just say love thing? That was weird.
A little thing.
You were my opening of the season, so I felt it best to close it with you as well.
Yeah, we're going to finish up strong.
You said something really funny the other day that I needed to share. Chris came up with a new term. He called it Caspering. It was so good. It was brilliant. I'm gonna trademark that. You heard it here first on DRL.
She trademarked
episode 100. Share what Caspering is.
So basically, we had a friend over, and she was talking about kind of like ghosting on people, but then sort of friend zoning, like coming back after ghosting and then friend zoning them. But she didn't say it in those words. And I was like, oh, wait, so you're ghosting into a friendship. So you're ghosting to the friend zone. I was like Casper the Friendly Ghost. I was like, so you Caspered that dude. And then it kind of felt right. So, Caspering. It's a new term. Hashtag Caspering. We're going to get some posts up,
You disappear, come back in the friend zone. It erases everything that happened before. A couple of the things I wanted to do today, since I have you on, I asked some listeners for questions about, if they needed general advice, about us, etc. The biggest one, like literally 10 people asked me, where are you guys at on the 21 days? When's the wedding? When are you getting married? So, drum roll.
Oh, wow.
That was a drum roll. Chris and I did make it to 21 days, right? This was a couple months ago. We made it
technically 23.
It was 23 days. But we decided to go back to 0 because we were having a period where we were just mailing it in, as Chris says, where we weren't, when you're just doing things to do them and you're not actually checking in with yourself and each other. Like, I feel like we were both really busy and just sort of like, oh, whatever. And so when we got to it, it didn't even really feel...
It wasn't right.
It wasn't, yeah, we were both just like, this is not a victory.
What happened was that we weren't following the rules that we set out in terms of things being unresolved, going to bed without discussing things. And so it was kind of like letting things shift and slide to the side versus moving up and onward. We literally marked those days, but then when we put on the board a high of 23, but kind of with an asterisk.
Yeah.
But
so we wanted it to be a real 21, where we're giving it our all. And so we're on, what now, 19?
Day 19.
We're on day 19.
To be continued in season 3.
Ooh, suspenseful.
Just a little bit. A little drama. Good drama. Good drama.
So, got a lot of other questions, too. I'm just going to throw out some. You tell me how you feel about them.
All right.
How many dates did you guys go on before dating exclusively? That was one of the questions.
Ooh, a lovely listener who missed episode 1 and episode 2 of season 2. Well, I'm going to refer you back to those 2 episodes because you are listening, and that's a good thing.
To recap season 2, episode 2, Chris and I didn't actually go out on any dates before we decided to be exclusive because we met. We went out, we met up for coffee once, and then we went to a movie once. And at this point, though, it wasn't a date. It was just let's meet up as friends, as people. Because at that point, I You guys remember when I was on my Eat, Pray, Love and I just left the country for a while. So I just wasn't on it and I left. And then that's when we connected. Like that's when we started talking every day. We were texting all the time. And then right before I got back, I was like, oh, by the way, we go together. And he was like, we've been going together. And then that's how we started going together.
Yeah, I think it was like February 20th.
No, we settled on the date. It's February 21st.
Oh, yeah,
remember?
time zones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was February 21st, and then you didn't get back till March 2nd.
Yeah.
So we actually had that whole time, I think 10 days maybe or whatever.
Yeah.
Before we actually went on a real date.
Yo, that was a real risk. Like, really, though. Imagine making somebody your significant other. Like, yeah, we're together now, having literally seen them twice and never even kissed. So you know what I'm saying when I say there was a lot of risk, a lot of unknowns.
Well, you saw me tear up at that movie. It was a little bit of a tearjerker. So that's like a kiss or two.
We cried together.
It was a touching movie. Don't.
It was.
Me.
If you guys haven't seen the movie Lion, go see it. Next question. How do you guys feel about the Cardi Offset thing? I think that we have this idea that to have things be great at the end, to have a great relationship, to make a marriage work, to get to the, we're sitting on the porch and rocking chairs together moment, that there has to be this struggle or this fight to get there. Like people love to tell the story of, we went through so much, we fought so hard and, he cheated or I cheated and we made it work. And it's like people like to this triumph. And I'm like, you don't actually have to forgive somebody for that. Like you could really just say you cheated and that's not good enough for me. And I forgive you for me. And now I'm going to move on. I'm not standing by for everything. It's like for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health. I'm not on with cheating and with not cheating. Like those aren't vows I'm taking.
Calm down, firstly. But no, I think secondly, I think you said it well in Facebook comments. You were like, look, people think that you have, like, just because you forgive, you have to stay. And you said, I can forgive and leave, and that's fine. And that's sort of my choice, and that's me deciding how I need to take care of me. People need to understand that, there's forgive, forget, forgive, stay, forgive, leave. There's all kinds of combinations of it. I mean, I think forgiveness is a key component to it. But also, most people aren't celebrities, so they actually can forgive in their own time. People are literally expecting Cardi B to forgive on their time.
On a stage at her job, essentially. That's the other part that I thought was so rude. Like, if you just came up to my job, literally, and you're just like, hey, coworkers, help me, orchestrate this whole thing. That I would be so mortified. Like, that would be so rude. Like, I'm working. This is my job. This is how I make money. What the?
Yeah, and I think somebody said it pretty well on Facebook. They were like, everybody's not a performer, right? So what if you were literally in a meeting, in a conference room, about to give a presentation to, either internal and external folks, and you're feeling yourself, you're hyped up, you're ready to do your thing because, that's what you do. Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, someone kind of brings this to your doorstep. This is literally bringing drama to your doorstep.
Right.
And I got to applaud Cardi for not being there for it, because a lot of people, I think, could easily get caught up in
there's all these people watching me.
And the sort of the Robin Thicke kind of overly dramatic, rom-com type of format of, I'm going to follow her to the airport, follow that taxi.
The grand gesture.
Yeah, follow that taxi. Oh, I'm going to make it through security and be at the gate.
Right.
Don't get on that plane and all that. Or I made my way onto the plane and now we're kissing in the aisle. Like, that's just not how life necessarily works, particularly if you just hurt somebody. And first of all, if I ever make a grand gesture to you, I hopefully don't be like, I'm sorry, bruh. That was weird.
If you're going to get on stage like that, you need to do some pre-planning. You need to gauge her a little bit before you just jump on a stage. I'd have been theoretically asking for a friend. If I was to crash your concert and perform some sort of grand gesture, how would that make you feel?
Right. Well, I mean, it was a nice idea in concept, but it didn't match what happened. I mean, I think Cardi has like a number of, notable responses to the whole thing, right? Firstly, the way she announced it was, I think, pretty tasteful and reasonable. And like, look, guys, you're going to be hearing about this. This is what it is. You don't have to hear it from someone else or like a rumor. Like, this is happening. We're good. We're thinking about parenting our kid, all that. And then after, people kind of came for him because he did make a mistake, clearly, and wanted to support her. She came out and was like, listen, like, you can't bully people online.
Right.
And like, it's not going to make me feel better for you tearing down the father of my child, who I chose to marry, who I chose to be with,
right?
Even though things aren't working out right now. And as a side note, she was like, there's people who've literally, committed suicide and like got into really dark places from being bullied online. And like, just because he's a celebrity and like, famous on TV and all that and on the radio doesn't mean he's not susceptible to that. And like, that doesn't support me.
Right.
And so I thought those messages were pretty dope.
She did handle it very well. Okay, the next question. What bothers you most about each other? I know what you're going to say.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
You're going to say the fact that I don't always say things in the moment. So you might be like, what are you upset about? Or what's going on? And then I'm like, nothing. Nothing.
I have to ask 18 times.
You have to ask 18 times. And then on the 18th time, I'm like, well, I just don't really like how you...
Well, that's one of them. I mean, I think there's like 3 things.
Oh.
Top 3.
What are the other ones?
That one, I think I figured out a way that we could work through it where I just ask you every day. And so, what I found was there was times where it was like, nothing's wrong, everything's fine. Especially during that fake 23 days. Mm-hmm. And then it would finally come out. And then you'd say something like, well, for the last 2 weeks. And I'm like, how did we get to 2 weeks without a problem coming up when we're supposed to bring problems up daily? And so if something's been feeling a certain way for 2 weeks, that's a long stretch. Like, so now I just ask every day. So that's I think the other thing is that this isn't even a major thing, but you're OCD.
Wait, what?
You're OCD. But we're OCD in our own ways about different things, right? For me, it's my inbox. For me, it's my computers and my file systems and my technology
See,
stuff.
I'm like, it's organized because it's all in one small box.
It's in the computer.
It's in the computer. That's from Zoolander, by the way.
I feel like sometimes you value the things that you're OCD about more than you value the things that other people might be OCD about, because maybe you don't see them in the same way, or you don't have a glimpse into how much effort and thought goes into it. And so then you say, well,
what are other people OCD about that I'm not?
Like me, I was just saying, like, your file systems were in disarray, right? And your inbox is in disarray. I didn't like say, man, you can't keep your inbox and your file system and your desktop in shape. Like,
but that's the truth.
Yeah, but I didn't like put my keeping that up on a pedestal and lower yours versus you're saying like, this is the way you clean underneath the cabinet.
Honestly, though, it's a fact. Like, the fact is you are diligent about your inbox and the way your files are stored in your computer. And frankly, you do it way better than me. That's just a fact. It is better. It is better.
And you clean under the cabinets better than me and the top of the fridge and all that good stuff.
So it's not a bad thing to say somebody does X better than me and I have something to learn from that.
Absolutely not. But the thing that I was saying,
and I clean better than you.
You absolutely do. But it's the disdain that comes with it sometimes. Sometimes, not all the time.
No, and if you have disdain for the way my inbox and my computer filing system is kept, I don't have a problem with that, because you do truly do it better and you have a better system for it. That's just facts.
I'm glad that you're okay with disdain. I'm just not always as good with it as you are. We've never gone to zero over this issue. So we've
never gone to zero over it, but
we've gone to zero over the first thing.
I just look at it like this. Everybody has their things that they're good at. Everybody has their things that they need improvement on. And we can help each other.
Well, keep that same energy when you're about to come for me.
And I just want to say, I appreciated you fixing my files in my computer today.
No doubt. You're welcome.
I had the spinning rainbow thing on my computer. Like I was up till 3 a.m. last night because the thing was just spinning and I was just watching it spin after like restarting my computer like 5 times and I couldn't handle it. Like I literally was just like, oh, if I see this rainbow, and I was going crazy. So I'm so glad that you're good at files.
Yeah. Just had to, run a little disk utility, zap the PRAM. No big deal.
Sure. Oh, I didn't tell you what bothers me about.
Oh, I was on number 3.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. This is the top 3, right?
They didn't ask for all that, but okay. No.
Right. I think the other thing too is that sometimes like you're very practical and methodical in some ways where it's great and like you're very organized and all that stuff. But because of that, you make a lot of forecasts on things. And sometimes like a practical, grounded forecast on things that aren't forecastable per se, or you're forecasting to like the worst possible outcome, can become like a preset reality. Mm-hmm. And what I often talk to you about is that's one scenario, but what about the scenario where everything goes really well? And then what about everything in the middle? And just, sort of just kind of going out on that limb and saying, like, if I had to choose between the world being 51% bad and 51% good, I'm just going to go with 51%. Not 100, not 80, not 99, just 51. And so when you land on those forecasts, at least have 3, upside and downside and sort of something in the middle. Mm-hmm. Get yourself to the idea that the one in the middle, even if it feels 50-50, that there's just, one more inch in the positive direction, and then make that your reality that you want to live in now, even though it hasn't happened yet, versus kind of reacting to the worst case scenarios of things all the time, presupposing that that's exactly what's going to happen. And like just a little bit of faith.
Thank you for your feedback. Doesn't that sound like that? As per my last email, I appreciate that and I get what you're saying, but I think just the way that I've been set up, I'm not saying it's the way I should be set up, it's just the way I've been set up, is I don't think that I view everything from necessarily like a pessimistic point of view. Like I'm not like, oh, the world's going to end tomorrow. But I do, when I'm planning things, I do plan in terms of, well, worst case scenario, right? And then I try to put things in place to prevent those things. But I also come into it with, well, hopefully the best thing happens, but in case the best thing doesn't happen, I'm prepared if that doesn't happen.
And that's fine. There's just some apples and oranges that occur along the way. And as you know from one of my most fire tweets, you can't think your way through feelings and you can't feel your way through thoughts. Mm-hmm. And if you do both with a pessimistic forecast, you could really get into some dark understandings of the world around you. And if you move in those understandings, air quotes, it might not necessarily create the best outcomes when interacting with other people.
That's fair.
Who you see every day and love.
That's fair. So, to recap, because I'm going to try to be a better person in 2019. So, I can communicate more in terms of what's going on real time in the moment, what's going on in my head. I don't know that I could be less OCD. I'm just going to be honest. I'm going to try.
It's not about being less OCD. It's about being more balanced in your judgment on whose OCD is better.
Okay. So, number 2, I'm going to pipe down my judgment a bit. Can I just say one thing about that?
Of course, it's your show.
I think that the biggest thing that you and I probably disagree. The biggest thing that you and I probably disagree on is just stuff in the house, right? So I like everything in my home a certain way. And it's the only thing in the world that I see like that. I don't complain about anything once I leave this house. I'm not like, oh, the trains are slow again, or there's too many people, because I'm like, I can't control that. That has nothing to do with me. I can't control MTA. I can't control other people, but I really do feel like in these four walls, yeah, I like things a certain way and they should be that way. But I understand what you're saying about the judgment, and I'm going to be more aware of that, and I won't put my things on a pedestal.
I just saw that meme in my head with the woman with the bag and the stuff falling out into the previous year.
In 2019, I'm leaving everything behind. Judgment. I'm leaving judgment behind.
Non-communication behind.
I'm leaving non-communication behind. I'm leaving judgment behind. And I'm going to have more faith. I'm going to leave pessimism and lack of faith in 2018.
Hey, now you got darts. I can feel it. I can see your eyes. She's like, oh, he had 3? He had 3?
Well, I have 8. The biggest one for me, it actually might only be one. The biggest one for me is I'm really big on just my word. And so if you tell me something one time, you literally don't have to tell me again. It will just be done. As long as I have an understanding of what needs to happen, it'll be done. And sometimes I feel like with you, and it's little things, it's not like huge things, but particularly stuff around the house. Like I don't ask that often for you to actually do stuff around the house. But when I do, because I don't ask often, I'm not even like really asking a question. It's really like, hey, I do all the parts. I'm just asking you to do a little part, but I'm not really asking because I do all the parts. And sometimes I feel like it's like, I wasn't, when I ask for something in the moment, like I usually need it in that moment. And to you, it's like, why does it matter if the tub is washed right now? Well, because I like it washed when if I clean the house, I want the whole house clean. But the reason shouldn't really matter. The reason is just like I'm making a request for something that I need. I don't make a lot of requests. So when I do make the request, I kind of just want it. And it makes me mad because I'm like, yo, I'm a low maintenance girlfriend. Why did you look at me? No, I am. Like, I'm not like, can you do this? Can you do that? If I can get something done on my own, and even if I can't, I will try my damnedest before I ask anybody. And so when I actually do ask, it's like, my back really hurts. I physically can't wash this tub. Like, I actually don't even want to ask, but like, I have to. So like, don't make me ask more times than I have to because I already don't want to.
That's fair. I think the only thing that we've clarified is that when you ask for things, to put time stamps on it. So you say, can you do this by this time? And then I can say, actually, I can't do it by that time, but I can do it by that time plus 2 hours or that time plus this.
Can we just put in like a general timestamp now of now? No, I'm kidding. Just kidding.
She's not kidding. This actually dovetails pretty well into the next thing. The people asked.
I wasn't done with my...
Oh, I thought you said you had one. Okay, go.
I just felt like I needed to think of a couple more because you had 3, so... No, really, that's the biggest thing. That's the one that really matters to me. When I ask for something, it's because I need it. All right. So you were like, get to the next one. So the next question is, do you guys fit into, quote, normal gender roles in your relationship?
I don't really think of things that way in general. I don't know. I think if you weren't OCD about things that are typically considered on the woman's side of the gender role, and I was, it wouldn't be like, well, I can't be OCD about that and be the one that's doing the cleaning because I'm a man. Like, I don't think that would have been the case. It just so happens. And, I mean, you've been like that since you were 4, before you even knew what being a boy or a girl really meant, right? So, yeah, I don't really think that applies to us in the same ways.
I'd say it's pretty equal.
I just think of it like this. Like, if I lived by myself, I'd have to do these things. If you live by yourself, you have to do these things. So there's no real reason to say, oh, now that we live together, there's some kind of seismic shift in how things should work. Because why? I mean, I think some things are also just on our interest, right? Like, I make sure the Sonoses are updated and that we're doing the thing you have to do so the sound sounds good for the room. you don't really
and
care
I
about
just don't
that.
think about it.
Yeah.
So
I make sure that all the Rokus and Fire Sticks and TVs and Ethernet cables are where they need to be. You don't really care about that.
right.
So I don't think I do that because I'm a man. I do that because I'm a nerd.
And I make sure everything else is running. No, I'm kidding. No, we have this this board in the kitchen, and it has not only the countdown, but it has like everybody's chores.
The count up.
The count up. Ooh, yes. But it has everybody's chores, and so the girls are like, they have to clean their room and fold up their clothes and water the plants, and Chris has washed the tub and put away the pots.
And also clean the pots and pans.
Clean the pots and pans. Which, let's be honest, I mostly do, but the tub one is the... But anyway.
I save them for last.
But anyway.
They got a soap.
Under my name, it just says... It used to say everything else. But I changed it to management because it was triggering Chris, the fact that it said everything else.
Yeah, I didn't like that. It was very judgy. Condescending.
It's less judgy now, right? It just says management.
You're a good manager. And a good manager fills in all the holes.
Thanks. No. This next question is a problem that somebody is having and they would like some advice. I've been friends with this guy for 4 years. We met through mutual friends and eventually started hanging solo, which turned into friends with benefits. I consider him a real friend, and he shares many details of his life with me, including things going on with other women and the fact that he does want a long-term relationship. I'm not sure if he wants that with me, but I want more than whatever this is. Should I tell him I want more, and how should I do it?
It's a tough one.
If this has been going on for 4 years and he hasn't sought to make a change in any sort of way, I don't actually think he's interested in that way.
I mean, that's possible. I mean, my thing is...
I'm not saying she shouldn't say anything. I'm just saying my initial vibe is that if he's telling you about other women, he really views you as like, this is a homie, lover, friend. Like, if he really was interested in being more, he might not mention other women. And I appreciate the honesty, and that's what I'm always going to want over everything. But it doesn't feel like, to me, he wants more.
I think that sometimes people don't want to rock the boat of anything the way it is. So if they were friends without benefits, and they had this kind of level of closeness in terms of their friend relationship, then even if the guy was interested, he might not make a move because he might think, well, she hasn't said anything or hinted at that, and so I don't want to mess up the friendship, right? But they have a friends with benefits, which is like, okay, that's the state of affairs, and she hasn't necessarily made a move more than that, and like, I don't want to mess up the current state of affairs by asking for something that I might not get. Even, he might be interested. You just really don't know. And so I think generally men are probably, if I had to guess, and it's like pseudoscience, but more apt to avoid situations where they could hear a no romantically. Mm-hmm. So if you have X and you want X plus 1, and you are scared of like losing X, like that's a tough proposition for a lot of guys. And so my advice would be shoot your shot. Why not? I mean, and, back to the gender roles thing, things have been sort of socialized to people's minds that the man has to initiate things. The man has to be the one that should, make the requests, make the proposals, make all the plans and do certain things. And the reality is anybody can do that. And you should kind of just follow your heart, because not knowing sometimes can like hurt more than knowing.
I honestly feel like the bigger issue here is that I don't like friends with benefits situations. And it's precisely because of things like this. Like, it muddies the waters, because now, are we just friends? Is there more? Am I just feeling this way because we're having sex? Like, it just adds too much. Don't have sex with somebody until you've determined what that relationship is and what you want it to be.
I think that can change, and I hear what you're saying. I wouldn't just make a blanket thing that's how everybody wants.
You'll
to do
never.
things.
I don't know. I don't know any
a
woman.
choice.
No, I don't know any woman. I've never ever in the history of woman heard a woman say, "Man, I just really regret not having sex with that guy, and now it's too late." Never heard it. Never heard it. However, I have heard the opposite a lot. Like, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have had sex with that guy. I wish I would have just kept it like this. So the thing I'm saying is, like, you know, I plan for worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, you can always go back and have sex with him if you feel like you should have, but you can't undo it once it's done. So think really carefully about what it is, what you want it to be, and how you're going to feel if things don't end up the way you want them after you have sex.
I mean, I'm not an expert like you are, but I think I'd say a couple things. One is that you said you've never heard X and you've heard something else a lot. There's a lot of things that we've never heard from women until in general that are pervasive. So, for example, it's only been in the last few decades that we've realized that women haven't been having orgasms at a very ridiculous rate. It doesn't mean it wasn't true. It's just we haven't heard it. And so there's like a lot of stuff that's been set up where the voice of certain undercurrents, particularly with women, haven't been heard. And now they're being heard in different ways. And so I can't suppose that because you haven't heard those things, that's the truth. And so I'd say, back to my original.
Do you know a woman that has said, "Man, I just really regret not having sex with that guy, and now it's too late"?
Yeah, I actually have.
You have?
Yeah.
What was she saying?
I mean,
like, what was the situation?
Generally,
I got to meet this woman. Bring her on the podcast.
There's plenty of them. Generally, anytime a man announces like a engagement or a wedding,
but they don't say, "I wish I would have had sex with him." They say, "I wish I would have given him a chance. I wish I would have dated him. But I've never heard, "Man, I wish I just would have had sex with that man. It's too late now, but I should have had sex with him." Not I should have had a relationship, we should have dated, but I should have had sex with him. It's too late now. I really messed up. Never. I've never heard it. If you are, in fact, that person, I would love to hear from you. Please reach out to me at Tennesha Wood, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and let me know if there's a man out there that you just wished you would have had sex with, and now it's too late. Not dated, not been in a romantic relationship with, but had sex with.
Well, you don't have to disconnect those things in order to say that.
But they are different.
Sometimes.
They are different, though.
Sometimes.
How are they? What are the times in which they're not?
When they're all happening at the same time.
But I'm saying one doesn't. But one doesn't have to happen for the other to happen. Like, they're not mutually exclusive.
I understand.
So you don't have to have sex with anybody to have romance.
All I'm saying is from my perspective.
In fact, romance blooms quicker when that's not happening because you're not clouded.
Potentially. My advice, separate from Tanisha's, would be to shoot your shot and see if there's an opportunity for something more. And if there's not, that clarity could help you. Because if you're saving a space for someone who doesn't want to be in that space, this will open up space for the right person.
Right. I agree with that.
And if you don't know, you'll always have it lingering in your brain. And that uncertainty can cause more damage than just knowing. And at the end of the day, you can find out yes or no. And either way, there could still be a friendship.
Right.
And if there's not a friendship on the no side of it, then it's better to find out now than later.
Right. And I agree with you there. Like, you can't not say anything, though. Like, whatever you do, you have to, if for nothing else, to get it off your chest so that you can feel resolved in the situation. But, you know, it might change the friendship. It might not. But in any case, you're not going to find out if you're not upfront about how you're really feeling.
And if the sex is enjoyable to you and it gives you what you need and you can still move on from there, enjoy it while it lasts. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all humans.
I think you should stop the sex, though. Inevitably, what will happen is if, in fact, he's like, "Nah, I'm good with where we're at," and she keeps having sex with him, eventually he is going to meet that girl he wants to be in a long-term relationship with, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, well, he's like taking her out to dinner and they're doing all this stuff and I'm just a booty call. And you start, regardless of whether that's a situation, it's going to start to feel like that.
Maybe.
Next question. I really loved this one because I connected to it and I 100% got it. I started dating a man I met on Bumble, and I liked him until I realized that he was obsessed with his dog. Side note, there was nothing about the dog on his profile. Everything revolved around his damn dog. From when we went out to what we ate for dinner, everything was about the dog. He even let the dog sleep in the bed, and that's when I was finally over it. I just told him things were busy at work, and I was hoping it would just dwindle and fade, but now he's calling me all the time saying he doesn't understand what happened, and he thought this would lead to something more. He's right. There was potential, but I can't deal with the dog thing. I'm willing to try again, but not with the dog in the picture. How can I make it clear it's me or the dog?
Say it's me or the dog.
Neither of us are pet people, so...
Hell no.
But I made it very clear up front. I was like, are you into dogs? Because I'm never getting one and I never want one. So if that's something that you're into, I'm the wrong person for you. So that was never really a big issue. But if I couldn't, just based on the way my OCD is set up, I couldn't date somebody with a dog in the house. I just know that I'd be like, up front. I completely get it. You should just be like, hey, I really like you, but I'm not a dog person, and your dog is like taking up way too much of your life and mine when I'm with you. And maybe you could have dog days and me days, but this is not something I can live with long term. Yeah,
I mean, it basically feels like the dog is invading certain boundaries.
Right.
For her, and it's not something that he's necessarily doing, but it's happening through him. So it's like, and like I could imagine if you really are feeling someone and they're feeling you, especially if he's blowing her up, he could say, so you're gonna break up with me over a dog? And it's like, well, the reverse is, so you're gonna choose the dog over me too. So It goes both ways, but I could understand why it would be tough to bring that up, because you actually didn't in the beginning. And I think that's the key thing, is that whatever you do in the beginning, people will move from there.
But you don't always know what you don't know.
No, that's true. But
you know what I mean?
When you first got there and it first bothered you, this is back to the communication and back to kind of how we kind of try to set things up. You kind of got to say, look, I don't know if this is going to like crater everything, but there's a good chance it can if it goes left. And I think as soon as you felt that way, you needed to express it. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason why it's at this point is because it wasn't expressed earlier.
Right.
Which might seem hard because in the grand scheme of things, it's like, you're doing this over the dog? And so you might be kind of like gun shy about bringing it up. But, you're really asking them to make the same decision they're asking you to make. So you shouldn't feel any kind of way about it. And in terms of like thinking about yourself, which is something that I think a lot of people are conditioned not to do, everybody should think about themselves in a balanced way and put themselves first sometimes, especially if things are for the long term. So my advice would be tell him, and then also say, look, I should have mentioned this earlier. I think that's fair to also include, like, I should have mentioned this earlier, and I let it become
I should have mentioned this the first time you let that dog get in the bed.
Facts.
Did I ever tell you the story about the guy who chose the dog over me?
No.
I was dating this guy in Minneapolis, and Minneapolis is cold, very cold in the winter. And one night I was at his house and I was just like sneezing and sniffling, and around certain dog breeds, like I become very allergic and it's just an uncomfortable situation. And so I'm like sniffling and sneezing and coughing, and I was like, I think it's the dog. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah. Now, this is a cold winter night in Minneapolis that this is all occurring. And it's like maybe 1 a.m. because I woke up like, oh my God, like I just can't sleep. There's something in my throat, blah, blah, blah. And so I was like, is there like a place you could put him? Or I don't know, his brother or something lived in the neighborhood. And I was like, can you maybe bring him to your brother's? And he was like, oh man, like it's just, I don't really like getting Buddy kind of up at this late because he has the schedule. Oh man, I said the dog's name. Oh, I shouldn't say that. I don't really like getting the dog up because it's...
a lot of dogs named Buddy.
That's true. I don't really like getting them up because it's late and, And I'm like, what the... And I'm just sitting there looking in disbelief like, did this man basically just tell me, you mean you could get out, but the dog's already asleep and comfortable in his house? And so, needless to say, I left, and then that was that. That was the end of that for me. Like, on a cold winter night in Minneapolis? Hell no. I was pissed. I drove home just like mad.
Big mad.
I never went to that house again, I'll tell you that. Ooh, this is a good one. Oh, I really like this one. I have a sugar daddy, and he is very supportive both financially and in other ways. He's very generous and frequently buys me plane tickets, bags, clothes, and pretty much anything else I need. We do what works for us, and I don't feel like I should have to answer to anyone about it. But I'm going back home to visit my family for the holidays, and my mother and siblings keep asking how I can afford to travel so much and where I keep getting money for designer clothes and how I'm able to afford such an expensive apartment. It's none of their business. I'm a responsible adult, and I'm not doing anything wrong, but I'm sick of all the questions. Should I just keep it real with them about my relationship with my sugar daddy?
First off, shout out to you. I wish I had it in me to garner such attention. What do you think, Ten?
I think that it depends on the type of family you have, right? So personally, if I said this to my family, I would never, ever, ever hear the end of it. And anything that I then did or had, I feel like they would look down on me in a way. Like they would feel like my mother would take it very personally and be like, this is not, I didn't raise you to have somebody take care of you. I raised you to be independent and blah, 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 which is all true. And, you know, a sugar daddy lifestyle isn't for me, but I'm not, you know, no judgment on the people who do it. But I think it depends on if you have a family that would take it as a reflection on them, or, you know, if they might truly just be like, yo, we're just curious, like put us up on game. How are you getting all this? Like help your family out since you apparently know something we don't know. So if you feel like they're the type of people that can handle that information and move on from it, like, and just take it as a piece of information and say, oh, okay, we were just curious. All right, cool, do you. But if you have a helicopter-like mother, like mine, love you, Mom, it's going to be the topic forever. You might just want to be like, right. You know.
Because you're trading one set of annoyance for another.
Right.
At least how you probably interpret it. Now I agree with that, firstly, is that if you're really just trading questions for judgment, and it's never going to stop, just like the questions are never going to stop, then that's one thing. But I guess my advice wouldn't necessarily be about what to do, because only you know who your family is. But if you do decide to keep it real with them, I think that my advice would be not to like beat them over the head with it, to really kind of like sell it as, you know,
I got a friend that helps me out.
No, that doesn't sound good. More like, look, I'm seeing someone and they're doing very, very well. And this is one of the ways that, you know, this is part of his love languages. Be like, we haven't made a decision for it to go into something super serious. But for him, you know, he likes acts. He knows I like acts of giving.
He knows I like gifts.
He knows I like gifts.
It's my love language.
He loves giving. And like the things might be higher ticket items for me or for others. But for him, it's the normal gift, and it's not out of line with his means and what he's able to do. And this is how he shows his appreciation for me. And, you know, we haven't taken it to a next step of like meeting families or doing this or doing that. But this is where we're at. And, you know, it's just like any boyfriend buying you a gift, right? It might be from Tiffany's. It might be from Claire's. But no one says no to gifts. I mean, no one judges Stedman. Stedman was flying on private jets with Oprah for years, right?
Stedman does have his own job and his own career. I just want to make that clear.
No doubt. But even if he didn't, no one would say like, well, why are you flying around in private jets and wearing Armani suits? Like, well, my girlfriend bought this for me. My girlfriend's Oprah. I mean, there's a lot of people with a lot of money. It's just that people don't necessarily know that and like what it's like for someone who has $100 million or $50 million or $25 million. And so people don't necessarily conceive of the fact that these items might not necessarily be a big deal for this person. And if that's how they express themselves and it works for them, I think you have to own it and own it confidently and kind of contextualize it the right way. And if people aren't going to be able to handle it, that's kind of really on them. I wouldn't refer to the person as a sugar daddy. I think that has its own connotations to it as well. But you're seeing someone. You haven't decided to make it more serious than what it is right now. Nobody's meeting families. And he gives me a lot of gifts because for him, it's not necessarily, setting him back or any way. And that's how he expresses himself. And he knows that I appreciate it.
But I also agree with that. You really sold it well. Like, don't say he's a sugar daddy. He's a person I like. He happens to have means, and that's how he shows his love. That's good. That's good.
This is the script I gave all my sugar babies in the 90s. No, I'm just kidding. In the 90s, I was a teenager. I had no sugar babies. I still don't.
I mean, the thing that I do understand the family asking questions, because if you just have a regular job and you're just living a regular lifestyle generally, and then all of a sudden every photo I see is you with a designer bag in a new place, I'd be like, just out of curiosity, how are you doing that? Just, I'm just curious. Yeah. So I get the asking of questions.
And if you wanted to, not be as truthful, you can be like, look, I have someone who's investing in my Instagram career. And, I'm going to do a travel blog and, a society type blog. And, he's investing in my travel and my clothes so I can get my followers up and start making money from Instagram.
How do you feel about the sugar daddy thing?
I mean, I think it's consistent with everything that I feel about all types of relationships. If it works for the people involved, that's fine. I mean, if it's like extremely transactional and people are fine with that, I might feel like a little bit of like, it's like borderline like prostitution, if you would.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I don't really want to tell other people what to do with their life in general. So, I mean, if it works for them and it's something that you're comfortable with, obviously if it's happening, both people are at least somewhat comfortable with it. But if it bothers you, don't do it. If it makes you feel a certain way, don't do it. If you feel like you need it, or if you feel like some sort of sense of desperation, or if you gain attachment to living that way, right, and then say like you wouldn't be able to understand life if you didn't, and like then now you have to chase to the next one if the first one falls off.
Right.
That I think is probably not healthy.
I do want to add this piece of unsolicited advice for a question that wasn't asked. I think it's completely fine. Both people are on the same page, yada, yada, yada. But the thing that I don't like about relationships like this, or I tend to like look a little side eye, no judgment because I'm leaving that behind in
2018. You're fine.
Yeah. To me, it sometimes feels like in these relationships, like, so if he just decided to stop doing all that, do you then lose all your clothes, your home, your apartment? Like, you never want to completely put yourself in a position where somebody has complete control over your lifestyle and the things that make you happy and the roof over your head. Right. The apartment part, I was like, so wait, what would happen if he decided, I'm just done with this? Are you on the street now? Don't take things from people that you can't necessarily provide for yourself, because God forbid they don't want to provide it anymore. Like, that's the part, like, I'm like, as a woman, don't ever put yourself in that position. That's just a bad position to be in.
You're actually generating obligations versus sustainability. Right. I agree with that. And, Jay-Z said it best. He said, your man got you bagging his work, put a little in the baggie, put a little in the purse. Stash up. Sell some of them bags, put some money away. Right.
So I hope you're doing it responsibly, and I hope that you're able to maintain your happiness if that man wasn't in the picture doing the things that he does. Like, that should be stuff you should do on your own. You should be able to maintain a lifestyle that brings you happiness without the presence of him or his money.
Word.
I think that was all the questions that we had. Before we close out, because this is the last show of the year, last show of 2018, what were some of your biggest lessons from this year? About anything really, about yourself or life or love, relationships, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's something that came up twice and already today, and also sort of tied in with something you posted the other day about from Trevor Noah when he was getting interviewed with Oprah. And effectively, he was talking about what he called the black tax, like people who are successful coming from, but I mean, I would just say anyone who's successful coming from a lower socioeconomic background. There's sort of this idea that all along the way, there's like a imperative to like help as many people as you can, do as much stuff as you can, and like how he was explaining how I can't get to the top of the mountain if while I'm climbing, I'm passing out all my supplies effectively. And then I won't have what I need to get to the top. But once I do get to the top, I can throw ropes, right? I'll have cell signal. I can call in, air support. I can make everything happen to get everyone else up as far as they can. Sometimes you have to understand that it's okay to think about yourself. It's not always selfish. Thinking about yourself can be selfish, but it also could be, substantial boost to everything and everybody. And you need to get to the top of your mountains before you can help other people get to the top. Because
secure your own mask first.
Right. Basically, you secure your own mask first before helping others. And, a lot of people are sort of taught and indoctrinated into the opposite of that. And it really basically ends up with everybody dying on the summit of the mountain.
Exactly.
And
nobody got to the top.
Nobody got to the top. And it's a very tough push and pull. And it's not like saying you like cut everyone off and act snobbish and act weird and do this and do that. But you got to create boundaries and balance all along the way and kind of like socialize like the mission you're on and the gravity of it and what it actually takes and where you're at versus where you want to be and need to be. Because also I think, today, you type in any famous person's name and Google auto-completes net worth.
Yep.
Almost every time.
Yep.
And so people are obsessed with knowing what other people have. And a lot of those people will tell you like net worth, 3.8 million, where that at? Right. And so, we're so obsessed with trying to count other people's money and being in their pockets and being in their success and being this and that and like understanding like, well, what should trickle down to me from that? When the reality is that everybody will know when it's time for those lifelines to happen if, people kind of understand these dynamics. And that, to me, that's in a financial context, but I think it's in a everything context, right? It just happened to be the example he gave. But it's the, like moving out of, I guess for me, like moving out of the hood, right, or whatever, wasn't just like changing a financial status, but it was also like changing my mental status. It was also changing my emotional status. Like certain things that would drain me before because they were ever present and around.
Like what?
Fell away. Just like backdrops of things like criminality, violence, poverty mentality, sort of, the side chick, side dude culture, just, sort of normal things that you would experience in that sort of environment.
Right.
And like a lot of those things dropped off. And, you'd love to try to bring everybody up into how to drop those things off, just like you'd like to share what you've made. But until you're actually fully realize it all and like, get your mentals fully reacclimated and get your emotions fully reacclimated, you can't bring anybody up emotionally or mentally either.
Yeah.
And
you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. You say that all the time. And so from my perspective, it's not just a money thing. It's a mental thing. It's a happiness thing. It's a fitness and health thing, right? You get out of certain mindsets, with regard to, how you eat, your level of hydration, what like basic things that, you just shouldn't drink Kool-Aid all the time.
Right.
I did it for years. Kool-Aid, Oodles and Noodles. When I heard Oodles and Noodles Babies on the Meek Mill album, I was like, yeah, I get it. But all of those things are changing. But until you actually get to each of those mountaintops, and you can share information and do different things, but like if you can try to bring people up all the whole time without securing your own stability, it can really put you in a disadvantage. Even being in the wrong place at the wrong time because you decided that, like, I can't just completely not be present for certain things that I used to be present for, could change your whole life. And, like, it's important to realize that, there's many mountaintops. People only focus on the money mountaintop. Yeah. But there's a lot. And you gotta secure your own mask first.
I think that is an amazing lesson for you, particularly. Because no, I think the thing with you is you're one of the most generous people that you are the most generous person that I know.
Oh, wow.
You literally are the most generous person that I know. And it's amazing. And I see how much giving to people like gives you, right? Like you really do get filled with a sense of joy and happiness. And the thing that I've sort of observed over the course of our relationship and sort of worries me at times is, one, are people appreciating all the things that you do? Do they get the gravity of who you are based on the things that you do? Like, do they understand like how much thought went into it, like how much care, how much preparation, like, because you do that with everything that you do. You know what I mean? Like if somebody asks you to do something, you're not just going to be like, oh, like, here's that stupid thing you asked for or whatever. Like you really do use your resources and your time and your thought and your mental energy to produce the thing for them in the way that they need it or what they want. And I'm like, are people appreciating that? Because I'm seeing the work that goes into it. And I'm like, is the thank you coming with that? Like, are you appreciating that? Are you about to give back to him? And I get very like protective of that when I feel like, oh, where's the thank yous? And so I'm glad that you're seeing that. Because the other big piece of it that I think we don't often think about is I think of like, let's use that mountain example. Like two things happen if you're on different points of the mountain and you're reaching to get somebody, right? They're either going to pull you down or you're going to pull them up, right? And don't stay in a thing too long where you're trying to help somebody up and they're not coming up, they're not pushing their weight to get up. You have to do all the pulling. That means you can easily fall down.
Right. I think the way I've thought about it in like coming to some of these realizations is that when you are pouring out and pulling up, that you have to be cognizant of the fact that if you spread yourself too thin, pulling up and pouring out, that you can lose the inspiration part of it for the other person, right? And so if you're not also inspiring, you'll always just be pulling.
Yep.
And I think that's the part that people might miss, and I had missed about spreading myself too thin, because there wasn't enough time, energy, and situational friction in order to do those things and create the inspiration at the same time, which would create the pushing up.
Right.
And so realizing that, it just added another level of thoughtfulness on my side to everything that I do, but at the same time, it's going to have much more like a benefit for everybody.
Right.
So it's actually pushing and pulling at the same time.
Right.
And things moving in a way where there's inspiration to say, you know what, I do see all the things that went into this. I do understand and appreciate it, and I do see how it's going to inspire me to fill in more gaps. And it's like a teach a man to fish type of deal. And so without that inspiration part, all the doing in the world isn't going to have the impact you think it's going to have.
100%. That's a really good one. I love that you're coming to that.
Thanks. All right, your turn.
The biggest thing I think I learned in 2018 is honesty. I think that sometimes I lack honesty in who I actually am. My little brother says it best, where he's like, there's the version of you that you want to be, and you can't make decisions for that version of you. You have to make decisions for the you that you actually are. And so I think sometimes, even just on a day-to-day basis, when how I'm thinking about things isn't always present with the person I am today. Like, I'm thinking about who I want to be, and that's how I'm making decisions for right now, which doesn't always line up. So sometimes when you do ask me things like, oh, so like, what's bothering you, or what are you upset about?
Well, the me I want to be wouldn't be mad about that,
But
so
the
I'm
me,
not mad.
Right. Like the me that I aspire to be wouldn't be stuck on something this petty. So I'm going to let it just pass. And then it doesn't, because I'm not that me yet. I'm still the today me, the 2018 me. And so I'm really trying to be honest with myself. Like, no, Tennesha, the person you are right now is mad at that petty thing. And the person you are right now does need to get this off your chest, because it's going to fester. And so I'm taking that day by day and just learning how to be honest with number one, myself and who I am today, and two, other people. And the second part of that is when I am being honest, I don't have like a gray area. And I don't always think that the most constructive communicator. The other thing I want to work on is not just saying, well, I'm mad at this thing. I'm mad at XYZ. Saying, I'm upset and I'm feeling this way in this moment, and here's what I think a solution is. You know, like taking the next step, not just being mad at something and not just expressing the fact that you're mad, but saying, okay, like in the future, how can I help me help you and help you help me? Like, what is a thing that we can both change in this scenario so this doesn't happen again, so I don't have to get mad, so I don't have to be in this place.
Right. No, that's interesting. And I think sometimes, like, if you just really boil it down, it's probably just about staying in the present.
Right. That's exactly what it is.
And so if you can focus on staying in the present and being aware in the present, I think all that stuff kind of naturally drops off.
Right.
If you need to summarize it.
Right. But I'm always thinking about the next thing.
Of course you are.
You know, like it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, how it's like, you know, I'm planning for the worst case scenario because I'm thinking about all things in the future.
Right. I mean, if you think about even just the structure of learning at an early age, almost every single thing that you're fed as a kid is to teach you how to make inferences. You take certain amount of information and infer the rest.
Right.
And then, you know, act accordingly, which is a great skill in certain contexts. But when it starts getting thoughts and feelings and emotions and mixing and matching those things, like we talked about earlier, it gets really tough. And so it's also addicting, especially when you're right. Mm-hmm. Like, imagine you've just been projecting a lot of stuff.
And I'm usually right. No, okay.
Imagine you're like forecasting a lot of stuff your whole life, and like you've been right so many times that it's hard to see that you could be wrong or less accurate than previously. And, you know.
So you do understand why I'm this way.
In my business, they always say, the disclaimer is, historical results are not indicative of future performance. There's risks to everything. And no matter how well you've done, you have to be cognizant of the fact that you can mess something up in the future in order to, and then if you know that and can get comfortable with that, then you stay in the present and solve it.
Being present. I'm going to be present in 2019.
Hey.
Can I tell you one more thing before we wrap up?
Me or them?
Everybody, all of us.
I'm answering for all of you listeners. Yes.
I just want to tell you thank you, because I don't think I would have still been doing the podcast if it weren't for you.
Wow.
There was, when I went away for a while, and still some stuff I really can't discuss legally, but I didn't know if I was going to come back, and you really encouraged me to do that, and you didn't let me sort of live in my own self-pity and doubt and,
bad forecasting.
And bad forecasting and feeling like things were insurmountable. Like, you're just like, no, this is what you do. Do what you do. And you made it possible in a very short amount of time. And I just want to tell you that I'm never not thinking about that when I'm like on this podcast and on this mic. The fact that had it not been for you, it would have been, dead in the water after all that BS happened.
Well, I'm glad it worked out this way.
Yeah, me too.
And so are your listeners.
Yes.
I'm speaking on your behalf again.
I can't believe it's the end of the year. So this is going to be the last episode of 2018. And then I'll be back on Wednesday, January 9th is going to be the first episode of season 3. I have a lot of exciting people coming up. I think I just interviewed, I'm going to make a big claim. This was my favorite interview that I've done the entire time I've been doing DRL. One of the guests I have coming up on season 3, she's in an open relationship, and she's getting married, and we just got into a very deep conversation about it. And like, she just has such like a beautiful soul and just understands life. And I was really blown away. But anyway, I digress. I say all that to say that there's going to be a lot of amazing guests coming up on season 3. And I thank you guys for following me on this journey and listening and reaching out and supporting. And just like, you all don't know how much like this podcast means to me. Literally, I get excited every single time like I hit send and the episode goes out, and I'm like this nervous person on Wednesdays because I love this so much, and I thank you guys so much for everything.
If you made it to this part in the podcast, let's give a shout out to Tennesha.
Aww.
Hey, you did it. 100 episodes. Congratulations.
Thank you, babe. And thank you guys once again so much for all your support and for listening. Please be in touch over the break, and let me know if there's anything you guys really want to see coming up for season 3, or questions, concerns, anything. I do let people slide into my DMs and I reply. So please do reach out at Tennesha Wood on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Oh, and I almost forgot, if you guys want to reach out to Chris, he is at Chino, CCINO 360. Yep. Yes. Can I tell how you came up with that nickname?
No.
Okay.
Next season.
All right. Tune into season 3 for that. So this has been lovely. And until next time, wish me love. Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.